and welcome to this episode of Three Questions. I'm Greg Micklig, President and CEO at cuinsight.com, and it's a pleasure to be joined again by Khalsa, CEO and co-founder at Swaystack. Harai, thanks for being here.
Greg, been seeing you on the conference circuit, so pleasure to do this type of sequence with you.
Absolutely good to see you in person and also in virtual environments like this. So I know you've got a lot of great information. I know our audience is eager to hear from you. So let's jump in on the three questions. So most credit unions focus heavily on acquiring new members. So why do you believe that the real challenge starts after the account is opened?
When we started Swaystack, Greg, we opened accounts with credit unions of all sizes, and oftentimes our inboxes were completely empty. We were receiving very little to no clear guidance on how to activate that new account. When we finally did stumble into digital banking, we were met with more of the same. No clear guidance or instruction on how to move over a primary banking relationship. We were left to figure it out ourselves, which meant navigating to all the different menu options, selecting features one by one, having to kind of plan out our switch process ourselves. And at the end of the day, we started talking to credit unions. We said, after accounts are opened, do you know what percentage are funded? Do you know what percentage have direct deposit paychecks set up? Are you measuring the number of card transactions per debit card each month? And too often we found that folks, while celebrating the new account opening goals and kind of the growth in net new membership, folks were closing out 40+% of the accounts that they had opened. So at the end of the day, we think it's clear instructions and guides, whether it's before the member gets into digital banking or once they get into digital banking, and really helping that member move over their deposits, move over their paychecks, move over their card transactions. So activating the initial account is going to create a transactional relationship where behavior is established, leading to a real connection between the member's day-to-day financial life and the credit union, and really teeing it up for the next product relationship.
It sounds like you've asked a lot of the right questions. I know I've seen you out there building the relationships with credit union leaders in the space. As you mentioned, we've seen each other at a number of events. And, I've heard you say that onboarding is often fragmented across retail, marketing, lending, and digital teams. So, what impact does that disconnect have on long-term member relationships?
Yeah, after an account is opened and we kind of celebrate booking a new relationship to the core, the question is who owns the transactional activity on that account? Who's responsible for driving up account balances, increasing the number of card swipes monthly, ensuring complete digital adoption from digital banking, but to e-statements, digital card issuance, things like that. So who owns that is often the void that we're finding. Does that sit with retail? Well, they opened the account. They did the 2x2 follow-ups. Does it sit with digital? They own the tech stack, but do they own the KPIs of the transactional activity? I would hope the CFO would have the most ownership of the actual outcomes of the transactional activity and the deposits on hand. But at the end of the day, we're finding that it falls into a gap. And marketing's got some messaging and some campaigns. Retail is focused on the origination side of the new account. Lending's focused on the cross-sell. Digital is bringing tools to the table, but who's actually owning those KPIs? So I think that the smart and advanced shops are creating teams around that. They're bringing those people together and saying, the four teams we have right here are going to work in different ways to get the problem solved. But we're all going to own that KPI because that's our business. Our business is how well the relationships we establish perform. And so I like the team approach. Initially for the implementation, it's essential, but for the ongoing maintenance and increase of the transactional behavior, I think it's good to have it as a team-driven KPI approach.
That's good coaching for the financial institutions out there to have that guidance from you to be able to implement that team approach around the whole environment. You had mentioned, 40%, I believe you said, of accounts that open close shortly after engagement. So, looking to gain that primary financial relationship, what are the key behaviors in the first 30 days that determine whether a new member actually sticks around and becomes a primary financial relationship.
Yeah, if you think about it simply, it starts with the deposits that the initial account opening and then the follow-up deposit efforts can gather. So the higher the account balance, the more skin in the game, the more likely the member is to start transacting out of that account. Generally speaking, payroll is where you're going to see that inbound flow. If it is through a payroll provider, maybe it's gig income. But at the end of the day, we need to get the income sources coming into the account. The likelihood there of winning the spending relationship, many folks are trying to turn their checking account almost into a transactional CD of sorts, where in lieu of driving the member out to a CD at 3.5, 4.5% interest rate, and the funds are just sitting there, they're saying, we'll pay you the 3.5, 4.5% on the checking account so long as you're transacting, so long as you're direct depositing. We're seeing an increased trend in that type of product strategy. I think it accomplishes a twofold scenario where you're setting this member up to generate the type of revenue you're willing to pay back, so it's equitable in that sense. You're creating the stickiness that is necessary to create longevity on that account relationship, profitability, but then also to warrant or justify them taking out a mortgage or a vehicle loan with you down the road. So I think the migration towards transactional type CDs in the form of a checking account is a real fascinating trend that we're seeing to win loyalty right now.
It's really interesting. Again, Howard, I appreciate you spending time with me on this video interview today. I appreciate the fact that you partner with CU Insight to help get
Of course, Greg.
the word out into the marketplace. Any final thoughts that you'd like to share before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, too often we've seen folks buy point solutions based on use case, integrate them into their menu options, and be frustrated that they're sitting there on the shelf. So have an engagement strategy around the solutions you introduce to your membership. Make sure that there's clear performance indicators that you're intending to drive and you're going to measure before and after to get to a performance metric. But yeah, I think engagement is the key here, Greg. And so thank you for the opportunity to speak.
My pleasure. And thank you again. And thank you to all who tuned in for this 3 questions video interview. We'll see you next time.